done, but I wanted to take you through it using Excel, Google Sheet techniques. All right. So they told us, and basically, any folks we're listening, uh, anywhere you see yellow highlight, you're going to put a response in there. Now, the example you don't have to do because I have the solved version of it on the next tab. All right. You're going to focus on assignment one. All right. But I'll show you the bits and pieces here. All right. So X bar is given for the example with the Westchester Homes was given to be 730,000. So you just pop that number in there. Sigma was given to be 60,000, but we need sigma over the square root of n. So equals, whenever you do a math computation, I mean, you should have some familiarity with Excel and Google Sheets, but maybe you don't really know too much about it. Whenever you do a math computation, you want to have an equal sign as your first character. All right, so 60,000 divided by the square root function is SQRT. All right, but you could also raise a number to the 1/2 power and accomplish the same thing. But SQRT of whatever the n value is, in this case 40, close paren, lock it in. All right, so we have the x and the sigma sub x bar. The x is our point estimate. The sigma sub x bar is the standard error. All right. The first question is asking us to do 95% confidence. So I'm just going to pop in a 95 here. I have it set so that it automatically populates the percent symbol, which is something, right?
Nice.
Yeah, you know, it's a little something, you know. So I need the z sub alpha over 2. Right? So if you think about the formula, and you know, maybe later on I'll just paste the formula in here, but it's x bar plus or minus z sub alpha over 2 times sigma over the square root of n. Right? So for the z sub alpha over 2, I'm going to do equals. Then I'm going to use the norm inverse function. If you type in the equals and just type any letter after that, it's going to give you every function in Excel, Google Sheets that starts with that letter. All right. It's the issue is when we do this on NumWorks, it's inv norm. So, you know, if you start typing I just at like force a habit, you get a whole lot of stuff we don't want. It's norm inv. So make that selection. There's 2 variations of it. It's Google Sheets came up with their own syntax, but then since they wanted to incorporate Excel users, they wanted people who use Excel to also use Google Sheets, they brought in all of the syntax related to Excel. So now they pretty much have twice as many functions as they should, but it is what it is. Right? I think it's kind of common sense that these two things would be the same, but you know, whatever. 0.05 divided by 2, or 0.05 divided by 2, 0, comma 1, right? So alpha over 2, then the mean and standard deviation for the standard normal curve. Right? The mean and standard deviation for a standard normal curve is 0 and 1 respectively. So when you pop this in, you can see, you know, Google Sheets, and Excel does this too, they give you a sense of what the answer is shaping up to be. You know, as you type more and more stuff in, it right above it highlights what you could expect as a return. It's giving me a negative number. I really don't want a negative number. In NumWorks, we were able to work around it, but I don't want to get in that habit. So I'm going to throw an absolute value in front of this. So absolute value of that number, because we're going to do the plus or minus anyway, but I want something that's copy pastable. All right, so lock that in. I have my z sub alpha over 2. For the low bound on the confidence interval, it's the mean, sample mean, plus or minus z sub alpha over 2 times sigma over the square root of n. So we'll start with minus, x bar minus z sub alpha over 2 times sigma over the square root of n. All right? It may seem like common sense, but when you do multiplication in Excel or Google Sheets, you got to use a multiplication symbol. You're like, okay, duh, of course. But what I'm really getting at is if you put something like 2 parentheses 3, you know, thinking of parentheses as a form of multiplication like it is in algebra, it does not get accepted. All right, it'll return an error.
So we should be calculating this stuff only with the Sheets commands?
You could use Sheets or Excel commands either way. I was just talking about the
as
difference.
opposed to numbers.
Oh, as opposed to numbers, yeah, yeah. So that's my low bound, and if you remember from the lesson, that's what it was. Now I want to try to use this as much as possible. So what I'm going to do, I'll just show you real quick. If I copy paste this, it gives me, well, that's definitely not the high bound. If you click on it and look at the references, it's referencing one unit to the right of what it should. Right? So that's not good, but it's easy to fix. I mean, you could basically just do what we did all over again, or you could throw dollar signs in front of the column references. So the C and the B, well, each of the C's and the B, right? So that it'll lock it into that column, right? Whenever you copy across a row, it increase. Let's say you copy across a row 5 consecutive times. The first one will be the next consecutive number larger than your original, or letter larger than your original column reference. The second one will be two ahead, 3 ahead, and so on. So if I wanted to take this command here and put it in D, that's 1, 2, 3 movements. It's going to make the C into an E, a D, E, F, so to make it into an F. And that's going to reference nothing useful. So we put dollar signs in front to lock it in. So now when I slide it over, I get the same value, but that's okay. That's because I didn't change my minus to a plus, right? But now I can do that, and we're good, all right? So then for 90%, pop in the 90. We can do this again. This is just straight copy paste because I didn't reference any rows or columns. So copy paste and make your 0.05 into a 0.10. I mean, you could do the mental math too. You don't have to write 0.10 divided by 2. You could just put 0.05. But to make it as user friendly as possible, it's often the best bet to put it in its most general form. So I have that, and now when I copy paste this, it's still locked in on those cells. All right. So going back, you see here the one difference. It's referencing these two values correctly, but now it's referencing the wrong Z alpha over 2. So instead of it being, what was that, B6, I want that to be E6. So I'd make that change. All right. And then do the same thing over here. All right. And then moving over, this is 99%. That's, again, quick copy paste. Make this a 0.01. All right. I had something in here from before, I guess. I don't know. I'll just do a copy paste. And then you see these are the same bounds. So what I'll do is I'll just change this. Now I want it to reference H, column H instead of column E. All right, so now we have 3 confidence intervals. We would just need to write our conclusion sentence. All right, now I put a little field here for topic. It's not really necessary when you're writing a conclusion statement. It's just I like to use the concatenate function. I'll show you that in a minute, but that's like in the territory of fun fact of the day, but it's kind of cool. The topic here, if we just write a very basic statement, it's talking about home prices. You can say Westchester home prices, but I always like to put a topic statement there. All right, so what I can do is I can actually concatenate my template for my conclusion along with the relevant information. So if I do equals concatenate, I can start typing we are, so just we are with a space, comma, 95%. So it's going to take, actually, let me just stop it right here. It's going to take the word, the string characters we are, and concatenate it with the 95%. So the only issue is it tends to put it in decimal form. That's fine. It's not a big deal. But I can do, oh, actually, redo. I was doing undo. I can continue on. We are 95% confident, so that the population mean, and it's like population mean what? It's population mean home prices, or home price, is between, close that up, comma, this, comma, and that. And I'll just throw a period on at the end. Like I said, you don't have to do this. I think it was just kind of cool. All right. And you might be saying, well, why would we do this? I could just write the words. All right. So this is locked in. And you could play around with the rounding and stuff like that. But if I copy paste here, now we are 90% confident that it's between 714 and 745. Copy paste over here. It's referencing the correct stuff. So 99% confident, right, between 705 and change and 754 and change. All right, so it's kind of like one-stop shopping, which is, I think, kind of cool. But again, you could still copy paste the words and just change some numbers around, So I just thought it'd be kind of cool to talk about. There were follow-up questions. We talked about this when we went over the examples in class. Just trying to scroll the right way here. What do you notice about this interval compared to the 95? The 90% interval is narrower, and the 99% is wider. All right. So then the second example, which I'm not gonna bore you with any more than I already have, you would just need to come up with the mean and standard deviation before you even get started. All right. So the standard deviation is easy enough because they told us the population standard deviation is 250,000 divided by however many values there are. All right, so divided by the square root of, you could count boxes or you could actually just do a count function. And it'll compute that for you, right? So, and then for the mean, that's easy enough. That's the thing is with Excel and Google Sheets that there is no mean function; it's average. All right, so you'd have the mean and the standard, the sample mean and the standard error, and then you would just do exactly what we did. All right, confidence level, Z alpha over 2, lower bound, upper bound, conclusion statement. All right, this is all completed for you in the solved example 1. What you're going to do is go on to assignment 1, which really is the same thing as the second example on that first sheet. All right, so it should be fairly straightforward. All right.